The 1960s gave birth to some of the most legendary sitcoms in television history, yet for every hit that defined the decade, another show tried to imitate success and collapsed in silence. Tonight, we explore the forgotten flops that chased trends too boldly, copied formulas too openly, and paid the price. These are the sitcoms that tried to ride glory, but never escaped failure. Number 14, My Favorite Martians, 1967. My Favorite Martians was NBC's hasty attempt to chase the extraterrestrial charm that made My Favorite Martian a hit earlier in the decade, but instead of continuing the original's gentle sci-fi warmth, this imitation followed a flustered Earth scientist who suddenly found himself guardian to two alien teenagers hiding from cosmic authorities. Network executives believed the mix of youthful extraterrestrial antics and domestic chaos would appeal to viewers fascinated by the space race. Instead, what unfolded felt loud, erratic, and strangely unfinished. The alien characters spoke using metallic echoing effects that confused test audiences, while the human lead delivered frantic monologues meant to imitate comedic panic. Writers stuffed each episode with teleportation accidents, malfunctioning invisibility belts, and clumsy encounters with government agents, but none of the stories built emotional connection. The humor felt mechanical, the pacing rushed, and the characters rarely evolved beyond their gimmicks. Production troubles only made things worse. Prop malfunctions ruined scenes, floating effects failed mid-shot, and costumes ripped constantly due to tight shooting schedules. Without a cohesive creative direction, episodes drifted week by week in search of identity. Ratings collapsed quickly, and My Favorite Martians vanished after one season. Today, it survives only as a curious reminder that cloning a hit rarely recreates its magic. Number 13, The Baileys of Balboa, 1964. The Baileys of Balboa was CBS's reaction to the growing excitement around Gilligan's Island, a breakout hit that proved viewers enjoyed ocean-based adventures, slapstick troubles, and comedic survival situations. Determined to launch a competing comedy set, near water executives introduced the Bailey family, who ran a struggling charter boat business, constantly battling wealthy neighbors and unpredictable seaside mishaps. Although it borrowed the coastal charm, the spirit, and the broad comedic style of Gilligan's Island, it lacked the colorful ensemble energy that made its rival unforgettable. The show leaned heavily on class conflict, pitting the down-to-earth Bailey clan against snobbish residents. Yet episodes felt repetitive, as each storyline hinged on misunderstandings, storms, or minor rivalries. Audiences searching for escapist fun found the tone too grounded for a seaside comedy. Production struggles also haunted the series. Sets were rushed, soundstage water tanks malfunctioned, and the cast frequently improvised around technical mishaps because scenes involving water were difficult to control. Critics described the show as a pale imitation, struggling to justify its existence when another seaside sitcom already dominated ratings. CBS canceled the show after one season and wiped it from most rerun schedules. While Gilligan's Island became a timeless cultural icon, the Baileys of Balboa faded into obscurity, becoming a cautionary tale about how chasing another show's momentum can lead to an identity crisis that audiences instantly recognize. Number 12, The Double Life of Henry Phyfe, 1966. The Double Life of Henry Phyfe arrived during peak spy mania, inspired by the roaring popularity of Get Smart and the global fascination with espionage heroes. Networks witnessed the success of James Bond-style stories, so they created a sitcom where a mild-mannered accountant was forced to impersonate a deceased secret agent becoming an accidental spy who constantly bumbled his missions. Premises like this succeeded when anchored by sharp writing and charismatic performances, but Henry Phyfe lacked the wit and confident timing that made Get Smart a classic. Episodes leaned on predictable jokes, identity mix-ups, and exaggerated spy gadgets unable to elevate the concept beyond shallow imitation. Audiences felt they had seen it all before. Behind the scenes, shifting creative teams made consistency nearly impossible. Writers were replaced, mid-season executives demanded broader humor, and scripts often contradicted previous episodes. Popular spy comedies thrived on world building, but Henry Phyfe could not maintain its tone long enough for viewers to care about its characters. The ratings never developed momentum, and after a short run, the show disappeared from network schedules. Over time, it became one of the lesser-known relics of spy fever, a reminder that the 1960s were filled with imitators whose ambitions could not match the icons they tried to emulate. Number 11, The Tammy Grimes Show, 1966. The Tammy Grimes Show attempted to follow the success of That Girl, which charmed audiences with its breezy energy and independent female lead. CBS hoped actress Tammy Grimes would bring the same appeal, portraying an eccentric heiress who rejected wealth and attempted to live an ordinary life. The concept seemed promising, but the execution collapsed almost instantly. Grimes played her character with theatrical eccentricity, which clashed with the grounded comic tone viewers expected from modern female lead sitcoms. While That Girl felt relatable and uplifting, Tammy Grimes embraced chaos, unpredictable dialogue, and exaggerated gestures, making audiences feel disconnected rather than charmed. Test screenings were disastrous. Critics also noted that the show lacked narrative focus. Episodes followed impulsive decisions rather than emotional journeys, and supporting characters shifted personalities frequently due to hurried rewrites. CBS executives, sensing a failure, acted quickly. After only 4 episodes, the show was canceled, making it one of the shortest live sitcoms of the decade. The Tammy Grimes Show later became a symbol of how risky it was to assume that copying a successful format guaranteed success. Even with talent, charm, and a familiar template, a sitcom needed structure, authenticity, and a voice that felt truthful. Without these elements, it vanished with barely a trace. Number 10. Broadside, 1964. Broadside was a gender-reverse spin on McHale's Navy, created during a period when television attempted to repackage existing hits with fresh gimmicks. Instead of male sailors causing comedic trouble, the show followed female Navy waves assigned to a remote base where authority clashed with mischief in predictable weekly patterns. Although it inherited the military comedy tone that made McHale's Navy a sensation, Broadside lacked the anarchic chemistry of its predecessor. The cast worked hard, yet the writing relied on recycled jokes, constant power struggles, and repetitive plots where officers tried to control spirited women who always found loopholes. Feminist groups criticized the show for outdated stereotypes, while traditional audiences found the gender twist forced. Production limitations further hindered the series. Budget constraints restricted the number of outdoor scenes, reducing the sense of military adventure. The studio hoped the series would attract the same audience demographic, but viewers felt it was simply a reversed blueprint, lacking originality. After 1 season, the show was quietly canceled. While McHale's Navy maintained a loyal following, Broadside slipped into forgotten archives, remembered today mainly as one of the earliest attempts to re-engineer a hit sitcom without understanding what made the original beloved. Number 9. Occasional Wife, 1966. Occasional Wife emerged during an era obsessed with unconventional romances and playful deceptions, where sitcoms thrived by pairing mismatched personalities into situations filled with mischief and illusion. Inspired by the bright energy of I Dream of Jeannie and other magical or gimmick-driven comedies, NBC introduced a story about a bachelor who pretended to have a wife to impress his employer, hoping to secure career advancement through the illusion of maturity and stability. The setup revolved around a young man climbing corporate ladders while relying on a woman who lived upstairs to play his pretend spouse whenever business associates appeared. Producers believed the comedic tension of a fake marriage would mirror the flirtatious chaos that audiences loved from other 1960s hits. Instead, viewers sensed formula, not freshness. Episodes repeated the same pattern where lies spiraled into mild disasters, yet everything returned to normal by the final scene. Storylines lacked emotional depth, and character arcs felt static, as if the show never intended to evolve beyond its premise. Actors struggled with limited writing and narrow roles that demanded the same reactions week after week. Test audiences felt the chemistry was polite rather than dynamic, and without a fantastical twist or heartfelt sentiment, the show faded quickly against more imaginative sitcoms. NBC hoped to build long-term success, yet ratings plummeted, and Occasional Wife ended after 1 season. Today, the show remains a lesser-known relic of the trend-chasing era, a reminder that imitating a formula without expanding its emotional core often leads to a creative dead end. It tried to follow romantic gimmick sitcoms, but ended up proving that novelty alone could not ignite genuine audience investment. Number 8. The Pruitts of Southampton, 1966. The Pruitts of Southampton attempted to recreate the comedic contrast that made the Beverly Hillbillies a phenomenon. While the Hillbillies offered lovable chaos through rural outsiders discovering wealth, the Pruitts inverted the formula, presenting a wealthy family secretly drowning in financial ruin while pretending to remain elite. Producers believed this reversal would spark humor through deception, envy, and societal expectations. However, audiences immediately sensed the forced nature of the concept. Where the Beverly Hillbillies thrived on hard and character-driven humor, the Pruitts leaned on repetitive gags about debt creditors and exaggerated aristocratic behavior. The satire felt more mean-spirited than endearing, making it difficult for viewers to emotionally connect with the characters. Behind the scenes, rewrites occurred endlessly as the network pushed for broader slapstick humor, hoping to lighten the tone. Guest stars were added frequently, yet nothing stabilized the show's identity. Critics noted that the series lacked the charm and warmth that defined its inspiration. The show ran for 1 season before fading into obscurity. Though it remains a fascinating example of trend-chasing, the Pruitts of Southampton stands as proof that reversing a hit formula does not guarantee a hit of its own. Heart, sincerity, and a clear comedic foundation are required to build longevity, and without them, the show simply dissolved into television memory. Number 7. The Ugliest Girl in Town, 1968. The Ugliest Girl in Town was a sitcom created during the era of high-concept television, when networks embraced bizarre gimmicks, hoping to capture attention through shock novelty or curiosity. Inspired by the success of shows built around exaggerated identity swaps and strange domestic situations, producers introduced a story about a man who became a female fashion model after a photo of him in disguise accidentally went viral. The premise instantly raised eyebrows, but not in the way creators intended. Rather than delivering subversive humor or heartfelt exploration, the show relied on a single joke stretched across every episode. Misunderstood identities, awkward dates, and fashion show mishaps repeated endlessly. Viewers found the humor uncomfortable, lacking empathy, and overly dependent on visual gags rather than wit or storytelling. Production challenged challenges made matters worse. Costume changes became chaotic, shooting schedules ran long, and writers struggled to push plots beyond predictable misunderstandings. Cast members performed with dedication, yet the scripts offered little room for character depth or emotional evolution. Critics widely dismissed the series, calling it misguided and hollow. It lasted only briefly before vanishing from schedules. Today it is remembered as one of the most infamous 1960s sitcom misfires, demonstrating how a desperate attempt to imitate gimmick-driven comedies can collapse when the heart of the story is missing. Number 6. The Mothers-in-Law, 1967. The Mothers-in-Law attempted to channel the energetic domestic chaos that made I Love Lucy a cornerstone of American comedy. With Desi Arnaz producing, expectations skyrocketed as networks hoped the show would replicate Lucille Ball's magic through family feuds, neighbor disputes, and comedic misunderstandings. The story followed two middle-aged couples whose children married, creating an inescapable bond that ignited constant rivalry. Producers believed the conflict-driven humor would resonate with multi-generational households. Yet instead of delivering heartfelt comedy, the show leaned heavily on loud arguments, exaggerated reactions, and cartoonish bickering that lacked emotional nuance. Behind the scenes, creative clashes emerged quickly. Writers disagreed on tone, actors struggled with repetitive scripts, and Arnaz pushed for old-fashioned slapstick that felt outdated by the late 1960s. Audiences sensed the identity struggle, and ratings reflected their discomfort. Although the show survived 2 seasons, it never captured the charm, heart, or cultural spark of its inspiration. Today, The Mothers-in-Law remains a curious relic of attempted replication, a sitcom that wanted to revive a golden era, but instead revealed how difficult it was to duplicate lightning in a bottle. Number 5. The Second 100 Years, 1967. The Second 100 Years arrived during the era when networks chased high-concept sitcoms that blended fantasy with everyday life. Inspired by the popularity of magical or impossible premise comedies like Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie, ABC introduced a series about a prospector frozen in ice in the late 1800s and thawed out in the modern world. The idea seemed ripe for culture clash humor, an old-fashioned man confronting telephones, supermarkets, and suburban etiquette, but the execution missed the emotional heart that successful fantasy sitcoms relied on. Episodes leaned too heavily on the same joke, the frozen prospector stumbling through modern society while misunderstanding slang, technology, or basic customs. Instead of exploring genuine generational conflict, the show recycled identical scenes of confusion, overreactions, and exaggerated slapstick. Writers struggled to balance the fish-out-of-water concept with week-to-week storytelling, resulting in plots that reset every episode without character growth or meaningful stakes. Behind the scenes, cast members faced rapid rewrites as executives demanded broader humor to keep up with competing gimmick sitcoms. The show even added a nephew who was a mirror image descendant, hoping to create double identity comedy, but the twist only complicated the tone further. Ratings quickly declined. After 1 season, The Second 100 Years disappeared from view, remembered today as another ambitious yet misguided attempt to duplicate a trend rather than define one. Number 4. Mr. Terrific, 1967. Mr. Terrific premiered the same year as Captain Nice, making it one of the most unusual moments in television history when 2 nearly identical superhero spoof sitcoms aired almost simultaneously. Inspired by the runaway success of Batman, Mr. Terrific followed Stanley Beamish, a mild-mannered gas station employee who gained temporary super strength by swallowing a government-issued power pill. The concept was intentionally absurd, yet viewers sensed that the show depended too heavily on its gimmick. Every episode featured the same pattern, where Beamish accidentally triggered missions, attempted clumsy heroics, and lost his powers at the worst possible moment. Without deeper character arcs or emotional stakes, the humor felt repetitive and mechanical. Production limitations further dampened excitement. Action scenes were short indoor sets, replaced dynamic locations, and special effects rarely matched the ambition of the scripts. Actors did their best to elevate the material, yet the tone struggled to decide whether it wanted energetic parody or sweethearted comedy. Critics compared it harshly to other superhero fare, noting that it lacked the visual flair and stylish identity audiences expected after Batman. Ratings declined rapidly, and Mr. Terrific disappeared after 1 season, leaving little cultural footprint. In retrospect, it symbolizes how quickly a trend can saturate television when networks chase popularity instead of originality. Mr. Terrific tried to be bold, but ultimately became another reminder that superhero spoofs required sharp timing and unique voice to survive the competitive 1960s landscape. Number 3. Pistols and Petticoats, 1966. Pistols and Petticoats entered the scene during the final years of Western dominance, when networks launched series that mixed frontier life with slapstick fun. Inspired by the success of shows like F Troop, producers introduced the Hanks family, a group of lively, sharpshooting women whose adventures involved protecting their town, fighting outlaws, and delivering comedic justice with flair and firepower. The concept appeared promising, combining Western action with quirky ensemble humor. Yet audiences quickly noticed that the writing repeated predictable jokes, where battles resembled rehearsed skits rather than spontaneous conflict. Characters relied on exaggerated mannerisms and Action sequences lacked the cinematic scale that fans expected from Western-themed shows. Behind the scenes, production faced unexpected challenges. The lead actress, Anne Sheridan, was battling serious health issues which affected filming schedules and left emotional strain across the team. Budget limitations reduced the number of outdoor scenes, forcing the show into confined sets that weakened the illusion of frontier life. Though ratings began, strong curiosity faded as the show struggled to maintain energy. Viewers felt the tone drifted between parody and sincerity without fully committing to either style. After Sheridan passed away, the series could not continue and was canceled abruptly. Pistols and Petticoats holds a bittersweet place in television history, remembered for its ambition, yet overshadowed by its difficulties. It reveals how copying a genre trend without securing narrative strength, production stability, or clear comedic identity leads to fast collapse, no matter how exciting the premise may appear. Number 2. Good Morning World, 1967. Good Morning World attempted to follow the workplace charm of The Dick Van Dyke Show, a masterpiece built on sharp writing, heartfelt character dynamics, and authentic performances. Networks longed to recreate its success, so they developed a sitcom centered around two morning radio hosts navigating job pressures, romantic entanglements, and comedic conflicts with colleagues. Producers expected the chemistry between the lead actors to mirror the warmth and charisma that made The Dick Van Dyke Show beloved. Instead, audiences sensed a lack of natural rhythm between performers, which weakened the punch of every joke and softened the emotional resonance. Episodes relied heavily on workplace hijinks that rarely built toward deeper character development. Behind the scenes, creative disagreements emerged regarding tone. Some writers pushed for fast-paced banter, others wanted gentle domestic storytelling. This tug-of-war created inconsistency, where episodes felt disconnected, as if the series had multiple personalities competing for control. Even guest appearances and promotional efforts could not stabilize the reception. Critics rated the show as pleasant but forgettable, and without a standout angle, it struggled to rise above similar sitcoms of the decade. After one season, the show was removed from schedules and gradually vanished from public memory. Good Morning World remains an example of how networks often underestimated the unique chemistry and delicate balance needed to recreate a hit formula. Even with talent and strong production teams, a show built on imitation rather than inspiration rarely finds its lasting voice. Number 1. The New People, 1969. The New People was one of the boldest attempts of the decade to reshape a familiar concept into a youth-centered experiment. Influenced by ensemble shows like Gilligan's Island, producers envisioned a survival drama comedy hybrid where stranded college-age characters built their own society after a plane crash left them isolated on a mysterious island. The twist was daring yet risky. Instead of slapstick misadventures, The New People explored themes of leadership equality and cultural rebellion, mirroring the anxieties of the late 1960s. Networks hoped the mix of social commentary and escapism would attract younger viewers seeking relevance. However, audiences struggled with the hybrid tone. Scenes shifted between serious philosophical debates and awkward comedic moments, creating emotional whiplash. Viewers expecting a fun adventure felt overwhelmed by heavy themes, while those expecting a drama felt frustrated by sudden bursts of humor. The series lacked a clear identity. Production schedules ran tight due to outdoor location filming, which strained budgets and shortened episodes. Writers faced difficulty balancing multiple character arcs within limited screen time. Critics admired the ambition, but questioned the execution. The New People was canceled after one season, yet earned a small cult following for its attempts to break formula. Today it stands as a powerful example of how imitating a hit while attempting to reinvent it can create a strange hybrid that appeals to no single audience. It remains a bold but flawed experiment in the twilight of the 1960s television era. The 1960s were filled with brilliance, yet just as many shows collapsed while chasing trends they could not master. These forgotten sitcoms reveal how imitation rarely equals success. Some were bold, some bizarre, yet all remind us that lightning strikes only once. History remembers the risks even when audiences never did.